The attack was vicious and chaotic. At least 8 people, some badly burned, are recovering after a flamethrower and Molotov cocktail assault at a pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado. The FBI is now investigating this as a targeted act of terror. But this isn't just a local tragedy. It's part of a nationwide trend that is very disturbing. Joining us now to break it down is Dr. Zachary Marschall, Ph.D., Editor-in-Chief of Campus Reform. Dr. Marschall, thank you so much for coming to the national news desk, really under disturbing circumstances here. We've been tracking a lot of this, starting with the protests on college campuses. Some of them turned anti-Semitic, and now we're seeing all-out violence on the streets. We saw it in D.C., and we're seeing in Boulder, Colorado, with people set on fire. Are you seeing a correlation here from what started a couple years ago with, of course, October 7th, and now on college campuses, and now what we're seeing actually on the streets?
Absolutely. The Intifada is on American soil right now because people in higher education wanted it that way. They've spent the last year and a half chanting free, free Palestine, and that they'll eradicate Jews from the river to the sea. And that is exactly what the terrorist in Boulder, Colorado chanted as he set people on fire. And that is exactly what the assassin said after he shot 2 Jews in Washington, D.C. There is no separation between college campuses and our communities anymore. And the language we saw in the last year and a half was not just political speech. It was an incitement to violence, and the violence is here because that is what these protesters in higher education wanted all along.
And when you say the violence is here, is there any way to stop it, slow it down?
There is, and it requires the will of local prosecutors to actually enforce the law and to prosecute people they arrest. The disturbing trend we saw last year was that hundreds upon hundreds of college students who committed similar crimes when it came to property damage, when it came to attacking people, were arrested, but then their charges were dropped. That can't happen anymore, and it certainly cannot happen when you have Molotov cocktails and bullets going into innocent bodies. So we need to see a change in attitude and a change in approach from our local law enforcement, and we need a complete overhaul in higher education because that is really the source of where this hate is coming from, and it is normalizing hatred towards Jews and making it acceptable to openly espouse genocide against Jews, whether in Israel or the United States.
When you talk about a change in course, what about for students? I mean, what can students do? They're on these college campuses. What can they do to try to make a difference? Boycott, what do you think?
Yeah, the boycott's been happening for a couple of years now, and I'm very glad to see it. So we are seeing a migration away from the so-called elite universities, the ones that top the national rankings, and the ones that have the worst cases of anti-Semitism, towards southern schools and towards state schools, where you see much less anti-Semitism, and you see administrators there enforce the rules when it comes to conduct and behavior much more consistently, and that is a good thing. So I think students can go to the schools where they have the right values.
You know, these cases, obviously, they're meant to incite fear, especially among Jewish people, whether it's a flamethrower or if you have 2 young innocent couple shot and killed in the streets of D.C. What are you hearing from students? How is this being internalized? How are they dealing with this?
I think there's a mix of fear and there's a mix of anger, but that's still wrapped up in a reticence for them to come out and speak openly. I speak to, students every week, and the common theme I hear is that there is outrage and sadness, everyone else, but they are scared to speak about it publicly for fear of retribution. And that is less about them, and that is more about the system that they are in, and that was enabled by these leftist professors and weak-willed administrators.
I just want to get very quickly to what's going on with the Trump administration aggressively revoking the visas of Chinese students. Of course, you have in addition to freezing visa processing for all foreign-born students as it prepares to require additional social media vetting. How do you balance this? What do you think? The Trump administration, obviously, in college is trying to address some of this at some level, concerns with national security, but also balancing this with foreign students who come over here and may contribute.
Yeah, I think this is a necessary step, so I think we need to pursue this as an option to course correct in higher education. This is a national security issue that campus reform has been covering for 10 years now when it comes to Chinese spying in the United States. And in the last 3 years, we have seen the influence from Middle Eastern countries, especially with the donations coming to universities, add to our national security concerns. So I think we do need to go down this path.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Zachary Marschall, PhD, Editor-in-Chief, Campus Reform. Thank you for joining us this morning.